Hi, thanks for joining me today. This is my week 3 update for what it's like for a marathon runner to become fat adapted and burning fat for fuel. This is a 6-week experiment with two main objectives. The two main objectives are to one, clear some inflammation and clear some arthritis pain from my hands, and two, get myself into a good body weight starting position for my next training block, which is in 3 weeks' time. And by the way, if you're interested in following along, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Get your notifications. It really does help me get motivated to produce more updates and more content. So I really appreciate it. So thank you. If you stick around to the end here, I've got an update on what happened on my Sunday run this week. Very interesting, and in 16 years of running and 16 years of marathon running, I've never experienced this, and it was interesting. There was nothing bad, nothing particularly good about it, but interesting, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. But first, let's start with an overall update. I think I mentioned last week that the pain in my hands, the arthritis pain, is down to about a 2 on a normal day without really exerting a lot of effort with my hands. But that's only a slight shift. As far as working with my hands, I was plastering this week. I was doing some gardening. Very, very painful still. My thumb strength and my grip strength is not good. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's given me feedback as to what I can do outside of this to help alleviate some of that swelling and that pain or inflammation and that pain. But I just want to say I'll not take on any of that advice just yet until this experiment has finished, because I think it's important to set out and go where I had set out to go, right? So I will take on some of these suggestions, but not just quite yet. Okay, the second objective is to drop body weight. Again, I dropped a little bit of weight. It's slowing down massively. I dropped about 0.8 of a pound, so I'm down at 152.6 from 163.4 or something like that. It's coming down, but it's coming down slower. I found that interesting, and I'll go through why I found that so interesting as I go through the statistics. I expected to be down more, have to say, but I'm not disappointed. Any kind of step in the right direction is a step in the right direction, right? Okay, now into the stats. I went through the weight there. So that, as far as running goes, so 4 runs, 26 miles, 42K, not a lot of intensity, mostly easy running, easy miles, with a bit of steady pace in there, or steady effort, I should say, as the temperature is well up there for everybody in Europe this past week. I think we all know that as you are running in this kind of heat, it's harder. So you maintain effort and don't worry so much about pace. One of the statistics that I've been meaning to share with you is my average daily resting heart rate. That is a significant metric that I like to track over the course of all of my marathon training. It's a really good indication of fitness level. And, as your body weight comes down, as your fitness gets better, that should trend down. Unless you're at peak performance from the start, in which case it's not going to trend anywhere. As long as it stays where it is and it's not going up, you're probably in pretty good shape. But at this point, with 3 weeks to go before my next marathon training block starts, I would have expected to be around an average daily resting heart rate for the week to be around 42 to 44. In week 1 of this experiment, I was down to 37. That is very low without being in really good fitness level or fitness shape. I would have not expected that. I think it was because I dropped so much weight so quickly in week 1. And as you are carrying around less body weight, your heart doesn't have to work quite as hard, and your resting heart rate will be a little bit lower. So I think that's what caused that. And as I got into week 2, it went from 37 to an average daily heart rate of 40 beats per minute. And in week 3, it's up to 41. I think what'll happen is next week in week 4, it'll probably go 41 to 42, somewhere around there. And I'll get back to fairly normal resting heart rate, which I think will be 42 to 44. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what the body does as it gets fat adapted. I've been maintaining my overall activity levels. I'm averaging 12,700 steps a day. Again, on the days that I am not running, I'm out for a walk, maybe 4 or 5 miles a day. So I am keeping up that activity with the intention of dropping body weight, right? So combine that with my calorie deficit goals, which I have been really good with, I would have expected my body weight to come down a little bit more than it actually did. So I'll have to figure out why that is. And all of that activity, maintaining activity levels, I am sleeping an average of 7 hours and 47 minutes. Still a little high for me. I think that could very well be the whole process of becoming fat adapted. My body is working a little bit harder. Maybe I'm a little bit more fatigued. Also, the weather, the heat, it does tend to make us a little bit more fatigued. So I'm not too concerned about that. I would like to get back to my normal routine of 6.5 to 7 hours, but this is trending down, right? That first week I was well over 8 hours a night. And week 2 was a little bit less, and now I'm still a little bit less. So I'm going in the right direction. Generally speaking, 6.5 to 7 hours is really the absolute sweet spot for me. I perform well. I am in a really good mental place at 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep. It gives me the opportunity to get my morning routine done, which I find extremely useful, and it just sets me up for the day, and it sets up my evening of sleep really well. And I am a firm believer that sleep dictates quality of life, full stop. As far as nutrition goes, I was on point this week with a slight exception of probably a few more carbs than I wanted to on average. And I don't know exactly where those are coming from. I could dig deep into it, but I haven't. It's not a big problem. On average, I'm getting 128 grams of protein, 129 grams of fat, and 37 grams of carbs. So on average, I'm getting 28% of my calories from protein, 64% of my calories from fat, and 8% of my calories from carbs. And that averages out to 1,818 calories. Now, my resting metabolic rate is supposedly 2,200. I did have that tested a couple years ago. It was a very useful metric. And that's why I'm really surprised I only dropped 0.8 of a pound this week, maintaining that kind of activity level of 12,700 steps a day, covering 26 miles over 4 days, and maintaining a roughly about a 400 calorie deficit. I would have expected a lower body weight, but it just didn't happen. I don't know exactly why. I do weigh myself at the same time every week. I make sure that I have gone to the bathroom. I'm not wearing anything. It's a very standard weigh-in time and situation. So that is a bit of a surprise, but yeah, it is what it is. On average, I'm drinking 4.8 liters of water. So that's a little bit higher than what I would do if I wasn't on this type of a diet. I tend to go 3 to 3.5 liters. So I'm now between 4.5 and 5.5 liters. But 4.8 is the actual average over the course of the last 7 days. And as far as supplements go, I supplement with electrolytes, and I take a multivitamin with iron every day. So so far, so good. As far as that goes, I think I am following this carnivore relatively strict. I haven't really cheated. I haven't had any kind of snack, anything sugary. I'm not exactly sure where the 37 carbs are coming from, but they're there somewhere. I don't know. Could be in the cheeses, the eggs. I am eating a lot of eggs. So what does that what does a day of eating look like for me? So it's usually starting with my breakfast at about 800 to 1,000 calories. I'm having between 4 and 6 scrambled eggs every morning, and I'll have those are cooked in butter, and I will usually have either some cooked sliced ham, some bacon, or minced beef, all cooked up together. I might throw some chorizo in there to give it some flavor, but that's a typical breakfast. I don't really make it too much of. I don't normally put too much variety into it, and I don't put too much thought into it. It's just whatever's handy is what I'll put in there. I do actually add some homemade cottage cheese to the eggs as well, and that could be adding some carbs. But so that's a typical breakfast. For dinner, it's maybe 5 or 6 fried eggs, again cooked in butter, and whatever meat I have. So it could be like chicken thighs, can be beef tips, or beef burgers, or pork chops, or anything like that. Uh, I know there's very strict carnivores out there who tell me that would be, sacrilege, but I'm considering that about as close to carnivore that I'm going to be able to get here on my budget. So that's what a typical day looks like. I am not hungry whatsoever over the course of the day. So that 800 to 1,000 calories really sets me up all day. I actually have to think about what time of day it is when I'm going to take my next meal, because I'm not even considering being hungry. It just doesn't cross my mind. And that, I have to say, is the one thing that I like best about this carnivore diet. It is just so easy to satiate myself. I am not worried about hunger or thinking about when my next meal is going to be. It's a very easy diet in that sense, and it's simple. It's very simple to cook. I have one fry pan, and that's all I need. So yeah, that's what a typical day looks like. As far as running and how it's feeling goes, it's still not 100% easy. I would say I'm closer to becoming fat adapted and fueling my runs with fat, but my body hasn't quite got there yet. 3 full weeks is not a huge amount of time to make such a significant change in the body. But the fact that I have been depleted of carbs for 21 days, you would think the body should be getting there and closer, and it is. I think I did back-to-back 9 milers this past week, little over 14K, back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, it took about 3K, 4K, about 2 miles to start getting into a rhythm. Once I was in that rhythm, that the rest of those miles went by real easy. And I didn't even worry about pace at all because of the heat, but I felt fine, and I just kind of ticked over. Sunday's run. Now, this is the one I really want to talk to you about, because something happened Sunday that has never happened to me in this particular, volume. Is I went to the coast, to Alicante, and I ran another 9 miler, a slightly faster pace, but still what should be considered easy run, easy pace. It was a little bit more humid than it is where I live, but it wasn't crazy. I've run in 40-degree weather. Uh, this was about 28, 29 when we started. Again, like I say, it was a little bit more humid. Got to about 5 miles, decided I am sweating a lot here, so I took my vest off. I don't normally run without a shirt on, but I needed to get that extra bit of cool air on my body, and that helped a little bit. When I got to about mile 6, 7, maybe 7, my pace really started to struggle. It didn't actually. The way it felt was harder. So my pace actually didn't trail off, but the amount of effort it went in to keep that pace was harder. And eventually finished up at mile 9 at a coffee shop, and I was absolutely drenched. I've never sweat so much in all my life. And this is something that I think is casually associated with this change of mind. So first of all, becoming fat adapted, your burning fat to fuel your runs is less efficient. than burning glycogen. Okay, so your body works a little bit harder. A little bit. Probably more so right now in that I'm not fully fat adapted. That will get a lot more efficient as I go. The other part of that is I'm drinking a lot more water. So instead of 3.5 to 4 liters, I'm drinking 4.5 to 5.5 liters of water a day. I'm salting my food a lot more, which will, the more water and the more salt, the plasma volumes get a little bit higher, and therefore I'm maintaining some of that water and I am sweating. The amount of sweat and the length of time that I was sweating for, about 30 to 40 minutes after my run, I was still pouring sweat out of every pore of my body. Never experienced it. And unfortunately, I wasn't close to home and I had no way to weigh myself before I started taking water back on board. But it was something I've never experienced. And yeah, I think that is less to do with carnivore and more to do with all of the other parts of it, not necessarily the food I'm eating, but the whole process of becoming fat adapted and the other peripheral things like the drinking the more water and taking on board more salt probably had something to do with that. I'd be interested to hear anybody who is on a low carb diet. Do you sweat more uh, in the heat than you did maybe before you started burning fat as fuel? I'm genuinely interested in that, and this is part of why I love experimenting with these things, because I would never have expected that to be a byproduct of it. So interesting stuff. Yeah, and also I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been providing feedback. Keep them coming, please. Keep the comments coming, please. Keep the suggestions coming, please. Keep the questions coming. I really do appreciate it. And I genuinely hope you are interested in this stuff because I find it fascinating. And I will keep going and I will keep you updated in week 4. All right, happy running.